Perfect.
Okay, thanks for coming, guys. I don't know where everyone else is, but we're going to capture this on video. Sandy said that she's okay with that. So we have Sandy here today, and I met her recently. She went through the intro to CrossFit program. I think she had a pretty good experience with that. But we had an opportunity to have some discussion after that. And what's great is she owns a New Balance just down the street. And not only does she own a shoe store, but she's a certified authorist, which means that she understands feet. So she's not just selling shoes, she's understanding how the foot operates, if there's any problems with it, and then how to get you into a shoe that would be appropriate, and or if you need it, she's certified to create orthotics. So I've had some discussions with her, and I was really excited to get her here because I believe we teach, at least educate to a certain extent people on how they should be running. And there's a movement in the CrossFit sort of world and industry to go towards the more minimal type shoes. But many people make that jump from huge supportive shoes, which they've had in the past, to the fingered type shoe, which may or may not be the best thing. And I think Sandy is going to enlighten us on a little bit of that. And I've been testing out some of the shoes that she offers, so anyway, I'm interested to hear what she has, but I certainly have some insight into what I feel about what she has to offer for us as CrossFitters. So without further ado, Sandy.
So what I'm going to do today is talk about lower limb biomechanics, because you need to have a basic understanding of that before you can even talk about shoes. And then we'll deal with some of the trends in the industry right now, such as the barefoot movement, toning if you want. I'll also cover how to fit a shoe and how to select a shoe, because it's a very overwhelming thing if you walk into a shoe store and see a wall of blue and silver shoes. And just you cannot pick by color anymore. You have to know your mechanics to choose the shoes. So we'll go through that as well. So just a little bit of background. As Brett said, I'm a certified podorthist, which means my background is kinesiology and biomechanics. So I studied gait. And then from that I went on and did another certification where I learned about more about lower limb mechanics, injuries, custom orthotics, how to cast, how to lower limb assess, build orthotics, make shoe modifications and shoe fitting. So anything to do with shoes and orthotics, that's my training. So basically we act like a foot pharmacist. So any lower limb issues, we can probably help you. The concept that we've got in Calgary is I have two retail stores. One is called New Balance Calgary and the other is called FootHealth. And they're both retail shoe stores that anybody can just walk in and buy shoes. But inside both retail locations we have a clinic. So we have certified podorthists on staff to analyze gait. So if there are injuries, we can look at you, figure out if your injuries are part, or your walking or your gait is part of why your injuries are occurring, and then we can build things to kind of counteract those movements. But let's start with shoes first. I want to talk very quickly about shoe fitting, because this is my thing in the world that is not done properly and it drives me crazy. So just give you a couple points for when you are out there in the world getting your shoes, what to look for. So at both of the locations, we'll actually measure you with that old school metal Brannick device that you probably haven't seen since you were a kid. And that would measure, say, a size 8. And that is only the starting point. It does not, no manufacturer sizes their shoes off that Brannick device. It's just a starting point. So in my head, if you measure size 8, I know that you'll probably be an 8 or maybe an 8.5 in New Balance. You might be an 8 in Saucony, you might be a 7.5 in Clark's or whatever. So it's just sort of the fitter's sort of reference point. What's really going to tell me is this liner. So every shoe has a removable footbed that comes out, and this is a better thing to use to gauge length. So I would have my client stand on this insole, because this is exactly the length inside the shoe, obviously. So if I have somebody stand on it, I want them to shift their weight to that leg so I get the most length and width, which is a worst case scenario I can measure from. And then I'm going to have them stand and look at where their toes are, and I want to have at least a baby finger width beyond that longest toe. That's going to tell me that that shoe is the right length. If any of you were to pull out your liners now, I bet you, most of you would have your toes up really close to the end. And it's just an improper fit. And the risk is black toenail or black toe, you can jam joints, you can just hurt the metatarsal phalangeal joints, the ball of the foot joints can be jammed. So we just want room for our toes and our foot to function properly. Second thing is, when we put the shoe on, we're going to look at width too. So New Balance, the reason we've partnered with New Balance is because they offer all different widths. So we can really get a good fit. So women's go from AA to 2E, and men's go from B to 6E, so 5, 6 widths in some of the shoes. So width is not just a linear measurement, it's more of a circumference. So we're talking about the circumference around the forefoot, not just a linear measurement. So when we have someone stick their foot in the shoe, so if you can imagine someone standing in the shoe, and again I would have them shift their weight to that leg so that we get the longest and the widest scenario. I'm going to take 1 or 2 fingers and slide it down the top of their foot, and I want to easily get beyond the bottom of the lace. That tells me that the circumference of the shoe is adequate for the circumference of their foot. That's how you tell width. The other thing is, if I look down at that shoe, so if I'm standing in the shoe, I want to find that widest point. That widest point is where the ball of the foot, or that big toe joint, that ball of the foot should be sitting in that part of the shoe. The shoes are designed to flex at a certain point, and you want your shoe flexing where your foot's flexing. You don't want the ball of your foot to be back here, because the shoe flex is there and not back here. So you want to line up the foot and the shoe flex points. So, and the way to do that is just eyeball that widest point, feel for that joint to make sure it's sitting in the right point. The other thing are, I'm going to grab a little school shoe. So historically, shoes have been stitched together, and the stitching is made with is done with nylon thread, and that does not stretch. So for a lot of people, it can be points of irritation inside their shoe because it's a rough and it's a thick seam. I don't have any leather shoes here, but if we had an all leather shoe with stitching, we can stretch out some of the points that are irritating on a leather shoe, but not over the points of stitching. So stitching does not stretch. What they're doing now is they're welding shoes together. So this shoe, for example, has no stitching, so inside it's just dead smooth, like a slipper it feels like when you put it in, and it's just heat welded on, so there's no stitching. They got that concept from the apparel industry. So that's a really great new trend, and I think probably within New Balance anyway, my guess is that all the shoes are going to go to that process because it's so much more comfortable for people. The other thing is the collar of the shoe. So you want to make sure when you put that shoe on, if this hits your ankle bones, it drives you crazy. It's very uncomfortable and very irritating. So just make sure that those ankle bones are clear of that. If that's something you feel and you'll think, oh, that'll just get better and go away, it won't. It'll just get worse. So just be aware that the collar height's not going to get any better. Okay, so there's your shoe fitting lesson. Now let's just talk a little bit about biomechanics. So the way we approach any shoe fitting is looking at somebody's, first of all, their foot structure, their alignment, and then their foot alignment relative to their leg. So my first thing is I'm going to watch someone just stand, and look at someone just standing. So they're going to stand, I'm going to see if their foot is wide, has a deep instep, has a shallow foot, is it collapsing, or is it staying in position? So that's going to be my first clue as to where we have to go with the shoes. So the reason I want to know that is the footwear has different densities. So if you look at this shoe on the inside, this is looking at the inside of a traditional running shoe. It's all white, so the colors will indicate density. The lighter the color, the softer, and then the darker the color, the harder. So because this one is all white, it's just a soft, neutral slab of EVA. This shoe is not pushing anybody anywhere, it's just pure cushioning. This shoe, on the other hand, has from here to here is a gray color, so gray is darker than white, so this is a higher durometer, higher density. And it's put on the inside of the shoes for people who will strike and then they collapse in. And that, how much and how fast you collapse, if at all, is the question we really need to know before we can select a shoe for you. So when somebody comes in specifically for running shoe fit, we're going to have them stand. I want to see what their foot does from non-weight bearing to weight bearing. Are they completely collapsing in, or are they staying in the exact same shape as they were without weight on their feet? Then I'm going to get them to walk, and if they're runners, we're going to watch them walk. And I'm looking for what movements are occurring through the different phases. So if we talk about my right foot, normal mechanics are to have about a 10 to 15 degrees external rotation. So few people walk with their feet dead straight. That's almost considered in-toeing. So we have about a 10 to 15 degree external rotation. As our foot swings through, we're going to hit, because of that external rotation, we're going to hit on the outside edge of our foot. And that is why they call out this heel cleft. So this little section is at an angle. It's not dead straight. It's at an angle to the foot. So that's going to be right where you strike on the outside. It's a harder material, so it's going to wear a little bit better because it takes so much abuse every strike that you take. So external rotated, you're going to land on the heel, and then your foot is going to come down. You're going to lower that foot slowly to the ground. Once your foot is completely down, what motions it goes through is really important. So if I face you guys, and we're still talking about that right foot, so I'm going to strike and I'm going to come down. In my case, I'm super hypermobile, so there is complete collapse. So there is a ton of rotation that happens when I'm in full weight bearing. So can you see where my knee is facing? It's not a very good aligned lower limb. So in my case, what we want to have is we're going to strike on the outside, a small amount of rolling in or pronation, which is going to allow you to absorb the shock or the impact of the step. A little bit of pronation, you should come up out of that, and then go forward and pivot over the pad of the big toe and pivot over and move forward. So striking, a little bit of rolling in, knee should stay in line with the foot, and then a straight push up. But what tends to happen in a lot of us is we will strike on the outside, our foot's down, and we collapse completely over, and we stay over, and we go forward off a pronated foot. So if I see somebody who does that, who completely rolls in, we're going to choose a shoe with a little bit of a higher density on the inside of their shoe to counter that motion. Because if this is true for your squats, some of the deadlift stuff, you want your lower limb to be in line and stable. But if you were sitting in this position, if I did a single leg squat right now, I would be here, my knee's facing here, and my foot's facing here. So there's too much rotation happening here, too much rotation happening here, and it will affect all the way up the chain. So we can choose shoes to counter those unwanted motions. And that would be into this stuff here that's got the dual density with the higher barometer on the inside. So there's different amounts of this. Sometimes it wraps right around the corner of the shoe. Sometimes it's got plastic bits in it. So there's all different, sort of on a scale, you can have different levels of pronation control built into the shoe. So a good test for that, for shoe fitting anyways, we'll have somebody just do a static, like just bend your knees. That's like, I don't tell them what I'm looking for, I just want to see where they end up. And if we have someone who's like this, whose knees are facing in, feet out, I know that their foot is collapsing underneath them. So we'll then put the proper shoe on, or what I think is the proper shoe, and we'll do that again. And it's almost more effective to do a single stance. And I can go from having someone like this in their sock feet to someone like this who are straight over their second and third toe from the shoe. So there's lots of correction that can be had from that shoe. So that's traditional running shoes. The problem with traditional running shoes is that there's well, it's a little bit controversial, I shouldn't say it, so the problem is there's a big, huge, chunky midsole underneath our heel, underneath our foot, and there's actually a lot of a drop. So there's 12 millimeter difference between the heel height to the forefoot height. So we've got lots of cushion between us and the ground. We've got lots of dual density to support our foot and help us with alignment, but we're also kind of propping ourselves up on a heel almost because the heel is so much higher than the forefoot. We also know that historically, the number or the incidence of running injuries has not changed since we've begun running, and since all these, high-tech running shoes and gimmicks and gel and air and whatever other, each brand has their thing that they sell. It doesn't change, no matter how technical we get with this whole running shoe, it's not changing the rate that people are getting injured with. What it does allow us to do with this big, huge sort of crash pad underneath our foot is we're now allowed to take a very long stride, because we know we're going to have lots to lessen the impact of strike. So we've changed the way that we run because of this, and some people will argue that that is what's causing all our running injuries. And if we take steps backwards and just look at barefoot running or simple just foot coverings instead, that perhaps is a better way for us to be out there running. So that's when you get into this stuff. So Brett mentioned the gloved kind of footwear that's out there, and that really kind of started the ball rolling along with the Born to Run book that was written. And there's lots of anecdotal evidence anyway to say that people who have been chronically injured running in traditional running shoes can switch to a barefoot style shoe and injuries go away. So that there's not, the last conference I attended, the presentations that were on the barefoot running, there just isn't enough evidence yet to show what it's doing on our running injury incidents. But we know that there are lots in the glove style, there are lots of blood blisters and toe irritations from just trying to slide the toe into the glove, which is probably not a surprise for many. So the barefoot style has come on huge in the last probably year to 2 years. It's just an exploded category. So when I started this business 10 years ago, there was no such product. Even when we opened New Balance Calgary a year and a half ago, there was mention of it, but we didn't even have the product to buy. So it's been really a recent phenomenon. I don't think that it's going to go away. I think it's here to stay. So what they did is they want in this climate, you cannot function in bare feet in snow, and you can't. There's glass. There's all sorts of hygiene issues running literally bare feet, but there are people that do. But what they wanted to come up with is a shoe that will offer the foot to function in a barefoot way, but be protected from the ground and somewhat of the cold. So you can see right away that the shape of the shoe is called an oblique toe, so it's wide and it's square, it doesn't taper off. Some of the running shoes will get a little bit pointy here. They kind of really taper at the toe and crowd those outside toes. So they've kept this so that your toes can be free and spread out like they should be. We were talking here about a drop of 12 millimeters between the heel and the forefoot. This one has 4, so it's significantly lower. There is absolutely zero midsole, so there's nothing to cushion you in the ground. It is a simple, straight, vibrant outsole, that's it. Inside, there is no sock liner like I used to measure the length of the shoe. It's just nice, smooth seams. It's literally a foot covering. This particular one wraps really nicely through the arch, so you have a really nice secure fit in that. And people put it on and they usually love it. The warning though is you cannot run in that shoe and then just go run in this shoe instantly. You've got to kind of break into that new way of running, because it's going to change your posture and it's going to change your stride length. So in a barefoot shoe, you've got to shorten your stride, number one. You literally cannot stride out in this shoe because you'll just have a heavy foot slap, and people will hear you a mile away. So you have to shorten your stride length, and then you have to therefore quicken your cadence. So it's a faster motion with a short stride, and your posture, you need to stay upright a little bit more. And basically, it is you just sort of have that line between your ear and your shoulder and your hips, and you just lean forward at the ankle, and that is your stride length right there, just enough to stop you from falling forward. So whatever little step, that's probably your stride length, and it just has to go really fast. So it's very strange at first to run in this, but generally people are really liking it. It is not for everyone. So I think some people will say that all problems will be solved by going to barefoot and getting rid of this stuff, and I don't know that that's necessarily true. For the healthy, average athlete, it may be true, but in my world, we see so many severe injuries or plantar fasciitis that they've had for years and years, or metatarsal, like pressure problems underneath the ball of the foot. I don't think those clients are going to be very happy running in no cushion on concrete. So you have to make sure it's right for you. So this one that I've been showing you is the trail version. That one has the Vibram sole. They also make a road version. So if you're running on asphalt, concrete, sidewalk, so on, they've got a tiny bit of a midsole here, so a little bit between you and the ground of cushion, but maintaining that still that 4mm difference between the heel and the forefoot, so you're not propped up in like a high heel. So same drop, same toe shape, little different outsole. They don't have that super grippy vibram that they do for the trail, and then a little bit of cushion, and that's what Brett is wearing. People are so crazy about these shoes and that feel of having barefoot that we now have lifestyle shoes. This is a men's lifestyle. So things like this have the same fit, the same drop, but they're just to wear around. You wouldn't do this, you wouldn't wear that to go for a run or this. This one is actually brand new. It's made out of recycled pop bottles, but on the whole barefoot concept. There's, I think it's 6 or 8 bottles that go into every pair of shoes, and it's just it makes this kind of felt like material, and they're super cute for around, but not for any athletic endeavors. And then for CrossFit, I think you have a couple different options. So this particular one is the men's cross trainer. So it's very similar to the road, but again, it's just got a little bit more lateral stability, same 4mm drop, and just a little bit of a different pattern. So I know there's some people here that are wearing it, this particular shoe, and they love it. I think for CrossFit, some of the best product is probably the lower stuff. So I find when I lift this traditional shoe, you're too far up, and I personally can't get my weight back on my heels enough, like in a deadlift, for example. It just doesn't work for me. Some other people will find that the material in here too mushy, so that as you go to push up, you're not getting a strong push up. You're sort of wobbling as you push because you're on sort of a marshmallow midsole. So that is something I would not recommend for CrossFit, but any of the barefoot product would work really well. Something that gets your heels back. You know, Brett may argue with me because your weightlifting shoes have your heels are up, but it's a super hard material, right? It's wood, right? So it's so you can really drive upward, but they put you in a little bit of a platform. I personally like to get my heel down and drive straight through the heel, so I like this barefoot product. The other thing that you could use is a cross trainer. So going from a running shoe to a cross trainer, you're going to get not as much cushion. You're not going to have as much midsole in the between you and the ground. It puts you lower, so you're able to do side-to-side motions better without turning your ankle. The risk with this is that you're very high up off the ground, and it's really designed for straight line motion, so running and walking in this dimension only. Cross trainers have lateral stability, so you can make quick cuts and not flip over on your ankle. So that's the design of the cross trainer. I think it works, again, well for CrossFit because you're low to the ground. It's a firmer bottom unit. You can push through easier, and it'll give you, some people just don't like that barefoot feel. Sometimes if people have orthotics, they need to really help themselves with alignment. You could put an orthotic in here. You don't put an orthotic in a barefoot shoe. It sort of defeats the purpose of it. There's also one I forgot to mention, that's the 101. So this is actually a trail runner. It's called the 101, and this has an 8mm drop, if I'm not mistaken. So it's somewhere in between the traditional 12mm running shoes and the 4mm barefoot product. So this has a little bit more midsole. It's got a great sticky gummy outsole for trail running. It actually has a rock stop underneath, so if you're running on the forefoot over a rock, it's got a bit of a reinforcement plate underneath so that your foot doesn't bend over the rock. You don't feel every pebble, kind of protects you. But some people are not willing to go to this whole barefoot thing, and this is kind of a nice in between, or even as a transition to get used to lowering those heels, running with those heels low, and then maybe moving into barefoot later. But so that one's been good too, but we're really seeing the majority of people going right to the 4mm drops. This stuff too, in January. Yes, question?
Sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering, is there any major structural difference between a men's and women's shoes?
No. No. Just size, right? But not functional. the last that they make the shoe over, so the last is sort of the three-dimensional kind of foot, if you will, that they create the last or create the shoe over, so that would be a different shape. They'll maybe make the heel narrower in a women's and so on, but not like component by component. It would be the same thing, just different colors, different color pop on it. Not everyone knows what I was saying.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Anyway, so that's barefoot running. I also wanted to bring your attention to this crazy shoe. This is the one I was mentioning that had the welded seams. There's no actual stitch seams in that. And this is a shoe called Rev Light. And actually, this is what I did my CrossFit class in, my larger CrossFit class. I did it not in this rainbow shoe, but in another color. And it is ridiculously light. So they have a new material that is called Rev Light, and this shoe is like the lightest traditional running shoe out there. It's crazy. I don't want you guys to pass it around because you need to feel how light that is. To me, weight in a shoe was never a big issue personally, and then I got the Rev Light, and now I get it. You can just feel like you can just fly in that shoe. So the only other thing I wanted to cover is just one step beyond all the shoes. Sometimes people end up with injuries that the shoe can just not help with. So if it's anterior, like knee pain here, chronic IT band pain, heel pain, shin splints, pain across the balls of the feet, arch pain in general, all those things, sometimes if you get the right shoe, sometimes it will be taken care of, but sometimes you need to do an extra step, and that means getting into a custom product. So what custom means is that we actually capture your foot in 3 dimensions. So we're going to make a device for you of whatever material we choose that's going to counter those unwanted excessive motions and align you and hold you so that your lower limb is in alignment and you can play your sports and function without pain. So to do that, we will actually take a 3-dimensional cast of you. So this is an example of one. It's a plaster cast. And so I have your length of your foot, the width of your foot, and the height of your arch captured in one. We will actually laser scan this so that I digitize it and I have a digital image of your foot. And then we have a lab that we work with that will create the different orthotics. So if you are an athlete, depending on your foot type, your mechanics, your weight, and the shoe that's going into, I will choose my materials based on that. Most athletes will put them in a polypropylene or a semi-rigid device so we can really position them. And then if you are somebody with diabetes and is not very active, I will go with a softer, more flexible style. So there's all different materials, and we kind of pick and choose depending on what the client needs. And this just replaces the insoles that are in your foot, in your shoes. That comes out, this goes in, and it holds you straight. So if your injuries are caused by excessive motions, then we can heal those or help heal those injuries by keeping your foot and your leg aligned properly, combining it with the right shoe. All right, I think that's the majority of it. Any questions? Any injuries? Any concerns?
No, I'm just wondering for myself, I'm bow-legged myself. Is there anything to...
No, so bow-legged is the curvature. So you have that kind of, I have huge bowed legs too, so I can make fun of you because I'm making So it's that little, cowboy, ride a horse kind of thing. Heard it all. That is actual curvature of the bone, and you can't change that. And also, it can be from just the angle that the femur or the thigh bone comes out of the hip too. So we just at a disadvantage because it kind of goes wham, wham. And what it does though is our tibia, or that lower leg bone, will come into the ground at an angle. So our feet have to accommodate and tend to flatten out to touch the ground. Otherwise we'd be like this. So bow-leggedness tends to have a flatter foot. You don't see a super high arch on a bow leg usually. Is that true for you?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of how we have to hit the ground. So, yeah. And, take all those jokes. Anything else?
Sometimes I know with myself I've had like 3 surgeries, and just running's always been not fun. Till I went barefoot. Then I started having problems with my lower back, so my side joint was a little out of whack. And one leg's on the other, so and all that fun stuff. And
And was your knee surgery, was it all ACL stuff or?
ACL, meniscus, this guy, and kneecap. So
Wow.
it's been
Just
like
every possible one, check.
yeah.
So, to some degree, I think that is true. The problem I have, I know there's a lot of people who want to do that. So I don't want to rely on orthotics. I don't want to have to use a device to help me. I think I can change it myself and strengthen and so on. But my argument to that is that when you're running and you stride and you land, I don't know how you can stop your foot from rolling in other than trying to run on the outsides of your feet. It's just too much momentum. It's too much. It's too fast of a motion. Like when we run, our foot is down on the ground and up very quickly. So to control that motion and not have it go here is extremely hard. Some people can control their foot placement. So if someone's really externally rotated, when they're standing and walking, when they run, they can think about getting that foot a little bit straighter this way. That for sure you can train, but I don't know that you can train that whole collapsing motion. You are a very typical case that we would see. So somebody who's had lots of surgery, so that kneecap is going to be very susceptible to positioning. So we want that tracking nice and straight in that groove as much as possible, which we can control from below. If you have hip problems or SI joint problems, any asymmetry, so having a leg length difference, so say your right is short, you're going to be landing and drop into that right and having to go up over the left and then drop into the right. So that asymmetry can play havoc on that back. So we absolutely have to have a lift in there. You can't do you have one of those?
I do, yeah.
You can't correct that for obvious reasons. So there is a clinic that I look at with some chiropractors, and they send me people who are unable to hold their alignment. So they'll go for adjustment after adjustment and they do okay, but then it just kind of dwindles away and they can't maintain what the chiro's done. So we look at the foot, and say it's their right side keeps rotating. Inevitably, we'll look at their feet, and there's some asymmetry there. So I get in there and make orthotics and fix alignment better, and they can hold their alignment better in their hips. So sometimes you just have to go there, and there's no shame in having a little bit of a help through an orthotic, like some people think. It does not work with the barefoot running at all, but not everybody has history of knee surgeries and leg length difference and so on. So, anything else? That's all good.
Purposes of my thoughts and these shoes, or
Well, even in a low shoe like that, like at least when you do whatever you're doing, anything down, you are aligned, right?
Yes.
The worst is to be over here and trying to push up. So if it's just a little bit of correction to keep that foot underneath the leg, underneath the knee, I think there's value in it for sure. Yeah. So I just wanted to offer you too that at New Balance Calgary, any of the CrossFit Calgary members will receive 15% discount. We want to help you guys and keep you healthy and get you some cool shoes and the right shoes, and also all the apparel too. That's a fitness apparel. Okay. And these are just little kid magazines, but they've got some really great recipes, and it's all super healthy stuff. So I just thought it's awesome.
Awesome, thank you, Sandy. Yeah, like she mentioned, she gives us a deal over there, regardless of whether or not there's a deal. For me, especially, and you guys know this coming from the way or at least the way I believe we coach at CrossFit, we take things pretty seriously in terms of understanding the mechanics and the motions that we do. And that's why I was really comfortable partnering with Sandy, because I believe that she understands those mechanics and how it would fit us. So regardless of whether you get a deal or not, in fact, if she charged double, that's where I'd tell you to go.
I mean,
because she at least
it's double.
understands the At least she understands how to get us and what would be most appropriate for us, as opposed to, and I'm not saying that others aren't doing the same, but at least I know this now, having her. So anyway, thanks very much. Awesome.
Brett, can you